from here are you usually living? But instead, what I would like to ask you would be, choose a country. Can be a country you've been in, can be a country that you haven't been in, but just choose a country that represents you as of right now. That can be your emotions right now, that can be what you're working on right now, but just choose some kind of country that represents you right now and give us some input as into why you choose that country. So maybe Satyam, if you want to go first, please do so. If you already have a country that pops up into your mind, you can also take a second longer. That's fine.
It's always India.
Always India. Okay. How come?
Because there I found the light.
The light. Okay.
Yeah, I was looking for the light for many of years in many of countries. Traveled the world with motorbikes always. And in India, I found the light. I found my path, and I found my life mission and what I want to do and how I want to grow. And yeah, it's very beautiful.
Okay, that does sound amazing. Perfect. If anyone else wants to join in as well, maybe Tarun, maybe you have an idea of which country that would be for you as well.
I mean, for me, I've tried. For me, I don't know. India's only been good to me. Every other country's pretty much kicked me out.
Okay, and today you're feeling good and you're not feeling kicked out, so it's India as a mood for you today?
I mean, sometimes, maybe I want to go somewhere else, but I don't know. This is the only country that's been working for me. I've tried living. I went to school in America. I went to England for a while. I was a resident there. My mom's from Indonesia, so I even tried there when I was younger. So for some reason, it only works in India for me. Nothing else works.
Okay, yeah, I do get that. Perfect. Funnily enough, my answer today would have been also India, as in mood barometer, because India has been quite chaotic and still very loving and welcoming to me as well. So this is a little bit of the feeling I've had the last couple of weeks, that it's all chaotic and systematic at the same time. And that's how I've been feeling as well, which is an interesting feeling to have. But definitely also something to embrace and to learn with and from. And funnily enough, it's also something that we have to embrace in the classroom a lot.
Can I add something?
Yes, for sure.
Because I always say India is my home country and Amsterdam is my home city. There's no, because I'm from the Netherlands and I don't feel home in the Netherlands, but I only feel home in Amsterdam.
Okay.
And I don't understand, but maybe it's also because Amsterdam is so worldwide. We don't speak Dutch in Amsterdam. We speak English with everybody. English is the main language. There are also a lot of Indian people here. Everything you looking for, it's in the city. So it's still very small.
Mm-hmm.
People all over the world know Amsterdam, but it's still very small. You can do everything on the bike. You can do everything what you want. Compared to India, it's still not that crowded, and it's so a lot of love from Amsterdam. Yeah.
I love that. That's amazing. Yes, I do get that a lot as well. Like traveling, I found more home than I found home in Germany. So I feel like a lot of travelers share that actually. And I love that you just said that. Thank you so much for that. And yeah, coming back to the other point, it's like chaos we have to embrace in the classroom. We have to embrace also different people, different characters as well. And starting with something like a mood barometer, as we've done now for like a minute or two, a little more than that, let's be honest, can help us to actually engage with our students and to get to know them. Because depending on what kind of workshop you're doing and what kind of lesson you're giving, you don't know your students. Like before today, Satyam, I didn't know you at all. And Tarun, I've only met a couple of days ago. So getting to know our students at the beginning of the class is a very, very important thing, at least like a tiny little bit. It helps us. Well, I can ask you the question, why is that important?
To tune in.
Sorry?
To tuning in, it's very important to tuning into your students and where are they on their level, and how you can see them, and how you can give them the tools that they need to grow even more.
Yes, that is one thing. I mean, definitely, but that also comes a little later oftentimes. That's something you can do with the mood barometer as well. That's amazing. What else? Maybe. Can you think of something else as well? Or maybe feel into yourself right now. How did the exercise make you feel?
How did the exercise make me feel?
Yeah.
Always very. It makes me happy to talk about which country I love, and it directly brings me to my happy place.
Yeah, exactly. I hoped you would say that, because that is one of the things that I was aiming at today, because this is creating connection between you and me. You know me a little bit better, I know you a little bit better, and it also sets up a setting and a space in which you feel safe to share something about yourself. You've
Yeah.
already done that now with a question that is not too personal, but a little bit personal. So even if you would have said like, I don't know, Canada, and even if I wouldn't have liked Canada, which I have nothing to say against Canada, seems to be a great country, have never been there. But even if I didn't like the country, it wouldn't have mattered at all, because it's just something you would have shared. And now you shared something about India, and we actually connected about it even deeper, which is amazing. And depending on group size, there might be a lot of people who love Canada, and there might be a lot of people who love India, or maybe even someone who has made not a good experience in India. But still, there's a conversation going on at the beginning of the class, and we can get to know each other just a little bit without losing a lot of time necessarily, because it's a simple short analogy that a student can give. And in this case, to be honest, I would recommend doing this kind of exercise, like giving or asking for an analogy with tinier groups. Like we are now, we've been 3 people. That works quite well, because you can share something, I can share something, Tarun has shared something, and we haven't lost as much time. I wouldn't necessarily do that with 20 people. So what could we do with a mood barometer with 20 people? What would be your idea with that?
I can tell you what I do.
You can tell me what you do. Yes, for sure.
Because I work a lot with Osho, and I let them take an Osho card when they come into my workshops, or when they're coming into the space, and they have to think about an intention, and then because they're sharing the intention with me, what the card resonates with them, it gives directly the open field to share and to be open and to connect.
Yeah. That's amazing as well. Yes. And then if you have a bigger group though, like if we're not going into like a tantric workshop right now, but if we are just going into a bigger workshop where we would do theory-based workshop, for instance,
Yeah.
talking about explaining the human anatomy to people, and it's not as important to build a very strong connection between people. It would be
Okay.
also possible to do like the circle method of a mood barometer, for instance, with this kind of exercise, where you would say, okay, how you're feeling from 1 to 10 right now, and so on. Like I've said earlier today, that these are different options as well. So if you have a bigger group, having everyone share, of course, doesn't work, but maybe having some people share as well, and that just creates a bond as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, perfect. I love the way you're doing that in the beginning of your course, because that, at least from my perspective, sets up a very, very positive tone as well. and you seem to have made good experience with that too, right?
Yeah.
Amazing. Cool. Okay, I'm super, super
It's
happy
very
about that.
it's very powerful, and also when I have when the group is too big, but I still need to bring safety.
Yes.
Then people are allowed to share their name, and with the group we repeat their name to welcome them into the space.
Okay. That's
So
also an amazing idea.
yeah, because to repeating the name with the group is already making them very welcome.
Yeah. Yeah, you're very right. I love that. Amazing. Okay. So yes, what we're gonna do in general in this workshop within the next couple of days also will be we're gonna look at different teaching methodologies like this as well. Like for instance, the mood barometer, but also what else can we do? Like how can we structure group activities? How can we structure like one-on-one meetings? And how can different ways of teaching and different ways of learning work for different kinds of workshops? So for you, for instance, now Satyan, you have already a tantric workshop. You already have a concept. That's amazing, and this could give you more ideas of what kind of methodologies you could also implement if you want that. But in general, this course and this workshop aims to give a introductory impact and give allow facilitators to pick what they need for their kind of workshop. So you're doing tantric workshops, someone else might do a photography workshop, someone else might do an anatomy theory based workshop. Someone else might teach the guitar. It depends completely on what kind of workshop you want to do. But basically, it's picking what you can and would like to choose with a bit of information and explanation on what would work best for which kind of setting and which kind of um, workshop structure as well. And then also what we're going to do is what we're going to start with today is to think about what makes a good teacher actually. So what are the qualities of a good teacher? What should they bring with them? And how do we, that's something we're going to do later, how do we structure a course in a sense of how do we structure it from the beginning, like one session like we're doing today, for instance. But also, how do we structure a course that is longer than one day, that is longer than 2 hours, that is longer than a week, or like that just spans over a weekend, a week, and so on and so forth. So, depending on how big your syllabus would be, depending on how much you want to give to your students, we're gonna completely go into this as well and discuss what preliminary thoughts of streams or considerations we should have in order to set something bigger up like that. And then, of course, we're also going to talk about settings, where to do it, what to keep in mind, material-wise, and so on and so forth. So, any questions up until here?
No, it's very clear.
Okay, perfect. So what I would love to start with today is what actually makes a good teacher. And if we would have been a bigger group today, then we would have done that now as a group activity and just brainstorm first. Since we are basically one-on-one today, I would do that in a kind of just dialogue with you. So what do you think makes a good teacher?
I can only reflect on my own the way I teach.
Mm-hmm.
And to being a good teacher is to being a space holder, to bring a safe space where people are feeling safe, and to because when you feel safe, you have the ability to grow. So it's creating a safe space where people can grow, tuning into the right material, tuning into the where they are in the learning process. Really tuning in to the students you have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what else? Yeah, it's good to have the right material. It's good to have the right setup. It's it's an intern and extern process.
Okay, what do you mean by intern and external process?
Intern process is to I'm always a bit nervous when I'm guiding big groups and when I'm guiding on festivals, because on festivals it's a lot of times it's quite chaotic.
Yeah.
You're coming in when the person before you is just ready, and you have to set up the space. You have to clean the space. I have to set up. So I have to set up the way I want to have it before people are joining. But also to make my mind ready to tuning in. I always before I start, I always meditate for a moment to really come back to my peace and really come back to my own heart, because I want to teach from the heart. I'm teaching from the heart, and then I can be as powerful as they need, or as the field needs, and then I can just provide.
Okay, so a very practical approach to teaching.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And I love that you say you're teaching from the heart, because that's one of the most important things you can actually do. Be there completely and be there with a lot of attention, awareness, and willingness to provide for your students as well, in a way of provide high qualitative information or high qualitative experience.
Yeah.
Hi, Rohan. Nice to meet you. Amazing that you got into the call. That's great. Super, super happy to have you. And yeah.
Love child, are you talking to me?
Yes.
Hello.
Hi there. Okay. So yeah, that's definitely one of the most important things, that you're actually teaching with a passion and that you're teaching with your students in mind, and not from the ego, I would say, not from the I want to teach you and you have to understand me. Because sometimes teachers do fall into the why are the students not understanding, and then that can be frustrating for people as well, or for teachers. And bringing frustration into the classroom, you've probably made this experience as well already. That can very much destroy the safe space that we're creating, especially while traveling, but in general, the safe space that we're creating. So being aware of what you just said is very, very important. And I'm very glad you said that. Apart from that, what else would make a good teacher? Like maybe even if you consider your school time, what would, if you think back to that, back to school in Amsterdam, I think that would be it. What were qualities of a teacher where you were like, okay, that is a really good teacher. I like the class here, or I'm learning something from them. Maybe even compared to teachers where you didn't really learn anything from.
From the most teachers, I didn't learn a thing.
Okay, why is that?
Because we're in the West, we have an old classic system, and I don't believe this is the right system. How people like me go off in the system, they really just disappear. It's not the way how to really train the brain and at the moment they're building a new system, and that's what children want to learn, what the children want to because when you know how children want to learn, it's very more easy to tuning into the things that I want to learn, instead of putting so much pressure on them what the system want them to learn.
Yeah. Okay, you said something very important right now, which is what they're doing right now is to focus on what the children actually want to learn.
Yeah.
So yes, and that is exactly the student orientation. Like you said that before a little with the teaching from the heart, but student orientation in a sense of actually looking at who is my student, where are they coming from, what is their background, how are they doing today as well. So
Yeah.
keeping things like this in mind is extremely important. Other things that would be very, very important as well would be, of course, you have to know your subject.
Yeah.
So for you, for instance, if you
But
didn't
it's not
know,
it's not really necessary to know the subject,
okay, explain.
because I was teaching also refugees,
Okay.
and I was teaching them from a book I didn't know, and I was just tuning into the students where they were in the book, and I was looking with them, and yeah, I could still teach
But
because
there you also had, yeah.
I believe it's also due to being the space holder and to being when they have questions that you can really look with them and find a solution. You don't need to know the book from the head or from the mind. You can just tuning in and just with logic you can also help them. I hope it's
Yes.
you understand me.
Yeah, I do understand you. Yes, absolutely. I've done the same before as well. I've also taught a little bit, at least. I taught refugees as well, and that is a very interesting experience to make as well. And yes, sometimes it is true that you only have a very like limited knowledge in a sense of very little more than your students, but still you have more proficiency than your students, or you have the knowledge how to solve problems that your students don't have.
Yeah.
So the important part is still that you need to have some kind of subject matter experience. If it's just how to work with the book, for instance, if you teach them Dutch,
Yeah.
then at least already you know Dutch.
Yeah.
So going into or like what did you teach them?
I was teaching them English and I was teaching them mathematics. Yeah.
Okay. So you did have some kind of experience that they didn't have yet.
Yeah, it was all for sure. There was a base level, but I didn't know the books, but it was like okay, I just tuning in, and yeah, there was a kind of knowledge in my system already.
Yeah.
Okay, I agree. I agree to that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then also if you're teaching to refugees right now, there is, because of the way the European refugee system is set up, there is not really a demand for quality teaching, which isn't to say your teaching wasn't qualitatively well done. However, the demand for quality teaching partly isn't as high, and a lot of people are just volunteering to teach them as well. I don't know how it was in your case. However, if you want to set up your own workshop, would you do the same as you've done in your teaching with the refugees, or
No.
would you say it would be better to? Okay.
Very clear. No, no, no. But
So
it was just for them. It was good that I was there and I could help them on
we
the. Yeah.
want to create a workshop for ourselves, then having a subject matter experience, either practically, maybe in a sense of having some kind of what. Yeah. Okay. I'm not quite sure if your connection is still there. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you, but the screen was blocked. So, but now you're back. But I still don't know, even if I do my workshops on festivals,
Okay, perfect.
or I give private coaching.
Um,
I know the
yes, so
material.
there's this difference.
Okay.
Well,
Yes. Yeah.
I'm challenging you right now, but like, are you teaching something that you don't know about? Or is that something like you, in a sense of, not not in a sense of not in a sense of you don't have the like a qualitative degree or something. That is not what I'm saying at all. But in a sense of you have the experience, you have made experiences, you know how to do it, you have attended courses or workshops yourself, you've created this workshop and you've put in the work in order to create something meaningful. So when someone comes into your workshop, if I come into your workshop, I can make sure that you are a safe space holder and you are going to actually be safe for me, depending on what kind of experience I'm going to go into during your workshop. And that's something you've made sure in the beginning before actually inviting students to your workshop, haven't you?
Yeah, and that's what I call the setup.
Yes. So setup can mean different things. It can also mean like the technical setup.
Yeah.
So that's why maybe that term can be a little, or would have been confusing to me right now, to be honest.
Okay.
But so if you have this kind of setup and you have the structure behind you and you have the experience behind you, then that is exactly what makes a good teacher. One of the things is we have the knowledge, either theoretically or practically, that we know what we're doing. For instance, for me, I have studied that for 7 years. I have taught for 4 years. So I have the theoretical and the practical knowledge. However, for this kind of workshop, I also do need this. I need to have the theoretical knowledge and I need to have the practical knowledge. And usually it's always good to have both. But then it also depends a little. Like, for instance, again, photography workshop, I don't like someone who facilitates a photography workshop doesn't necessarily need to know about all of the different details of how a camera is set up in order to take good pictures and in order to explain that to other people. However, they do need the practical experience. And maybe for you, you might have not studied that in university, or you might have. We don't know that. I'm not going to ask that. However, or like a yoga teacher also. There's people who study a bachelor's degree in yoga, who have no practical knowledge, however, and then try to teach. And maybe that works, maybe it doesn't. But in order to teach a practical yoga class, it definitely is very helpful to have some kind of practical experience yourself and to know how the body works, to know how it feels to be in one pose or the other. So depending on the workshop, what I mean with subject matter experience, it is the base knowledge that stands behind that.
I know what you mean, because
And
when
to make
I work with a group, I I have my program, but sometimes I just, especially when I work alone, sometimes I just at that moment I'm just tuning into the group, and I said no, but I was planning to do this, and I'm going to do this because I feel in the energy that this is better to do it. And for that you need basic knowledge, you need experience, you need a lot of, you have that you have done this for 1,000 times, that you just know. I can just feel the energy, I just take the energy, just flow, and it always works. But that's a lot of experience. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That comes with experience, but that actually is a really good other point that I wanted to go to as well, which is flexibility and adaptability. So what you're doing there is exactly one thing that makes a good teacher. Seeing what do my students need right now? How are they feeling? And to tune into your students, and then to listen or to pay attention or to listen with your five senses, or like at least with three of them. Like to listen with your ears, to listen with your eyes, and to listen maybe even with for instance, listening with your eyes, you see how people are getting tense, how people are getting away from you, maybe in your tantric workshop, or how people are starting to walk around a little irritated maybe in a workshop, or like standing somewhere, again, photography, maybe not sure what to do with the camera, where to go, what to actually take a picture of. So seeing that communicates a lot. So that is what I'm meaning with listening with the other senses. Or then even if you do a yoga workshop or a yoga class and you notice your students shivering in like giving hands-on adjustments and the student is shivering, that also communicates a lot to a yoga teacher, for instance, where they can know, okay, maybe the exercise is getting hard for this student. Maybe it's getting hard for all of the other students as well. Or like I've seen in a course yesterday, just someone who has a very red face, realizing, okay, we're in a yoga class right now. It is a hard exercise. People are getting a red face. Hold it for 10 counts. Maybe we're just going to hold it for 5. So listening with the senses and then adapting and having this flexibility is actually a very, very good thing. So I love that you brought that in here right now. So that's something. And then based on listening skills, it's also about communicative skills. So both listening and speaking are very important skills to have, with tiny kinds of tweaks that we can be aware of. The clear speech pattern, I would say, from what I've gotten so far. You seem to speak with a lot of confidence, which is amazing. And that is one of the things that also is very, very important for teachers as well. And especially if teachers are unsure of what they are teaching at the moment, then sometimes little filler words come in, which if we're aware of them, we can start to cut out a little. I know for myself, I definitely use them as well every once in a second, or once in a minute. For instance, this that just came out. So cutting out filler words like that don't help us think and that just interrupt the flow of speech. If we're aware of them, that can make a really big impact for our class as well in order to understand us as theory-based workshops, where getting a theory-based understanding is very important. So cutting off sentences in the middle of the sentence and going back to the start or to complete started off with is hard for students in a sense of it is hard for them to follow the sentence then. So using easier sentences or a clearer sentence structure helps a lot with that. At the same time, just speaking with confidence, as you've said, is a very good thing, or not you've said, but you've demonstrated is a very good thing to do. And then also on speaking or on teaching in general, something that is important when we speak is how can we break down complicated concepts? So how can we break them down just from a understanding kind of mind, but then also how can we break them down in a sense of we have this big concept. How can I make sure that with my speech and with my language, I break it down into smaller patterns, either going from a big concept to a smaller concept or going from the smaller concept to the big concept. So differentiating whether or not I go the inductive or the deductive way is very, very important here as well. So that the students can have a very clear structure. So usually you would go one of the both ways to have either your broad concept or to start from a very, very small concept and then go into the bigger one. Starting in the middle of that usually isn't the best thing. So for instance, as an example, so when we have a deductive concept, we have a big concept at the beginning. So it's generally applied to everyone. For instance, we could say all of us are humans. So because you are a human, I am a human, Tarun is a human, Kohan is a human. If we're all humans, then a lot of concepts that come with humanness apply to all of us. So if I know that all of these concepts apply to all of us, I can deduct singular things to you and to me. So, for instance, if I say you are a human, I am a human, my grandfather is a human, Napoleon was a human. Napoleon is dead right now. He is human. We know for humans, basically the concept is we are all gonna die eventually. That's a little dark of an example maybe now, but we know that. So since we know that from Napoleon, we also can deduct that it's highly probable that the same will happen to you and me as well. We don't know that for sure, of course, but it is highly probable. So having like big general concepts and then going from there into the smaller ones would work for specific tasks, where other tasks, it would be having one observation and then going into the other observations into bigger observations would be also possible. So for instance, in language learning, having small observations about grammatical structures and then putting that onto other structures would work as well. For instance, if we have a plural word, houses, and we know it ends with an S, then we can deduct that maybe horses will also end with an S. So the plural S in English, just the deduction that we have there, that is something where we can go from one side to the other. So seeing which direction we want to teach is very important there. And then also going into register choice. So for instance, we are right now on a call of one-on-one, and it's more of an informal setting, I would say. It's not I'm in a university and I'm teaching you with the blackboard behind me and I am giving a huge lecture, but it's, especially in this case, one-on-one, but it's a Zoom call, it's a workshop, it's within the setting of the travel community, which is a little more friendly in general with each other and a little more informal with each other. So it's not as if I would say Mr. to you and you would say Mrs. to me or something like that. So depending on that, I can also choose my register and use phrases, words, and just demeanor in general that helps with creating this kind of setting in which people are feeling comfortable in within the class, as the class is part of the bigger setting. You understand what I'm meaning?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. So, yes. Or do you have a question or a thought that you want to share right now?
No, what you're sharing is very clear.
Okay.
It depends of the group, depends of the situation, depends of everything. It's like
Yes.
The connection between a university and a student, or a university teacher and a student, is different than our connection. It's more informal. It's more open. We can share openly.
Yes.
When the connection is different, there are more rules, or there are more things what you have to think about. It's always kind of sometimes it's the communication is inside of a kind of a box, and you have to stay inside of this box to make the conversation on a good way.
Yes.
I have been in many of companies, also talking with directors, but also talking to the normal working people, and also always tuning in to on a different way of communication. Because if I talk to a bank to a director on the way I talk to the people on the street, it's not gonna work. So it's always a way to tuning in. It's always knowing who are you talking with. You're saying the same message, but you're saying the message on a different way. Is that a good example of what you just told me?
Yeah, exactly. You've gotten it perfectly clear.
Okay, perfect.
Amazing. Yes. So that definitely is a part of it. And then 1 second. Okay. So, and then what you've already said as well, we have, or like, not completely said, but I think more hinted at is classroom environment. So if you have a space and you come into a space, where are you usually holding your workshops?
Yeah. Most of all, I do that in the summer. I do that on very, very big events in Europe.
Okay. So what are the spaces like that you're holding your workshop in?
Last time it was in a teepee, a very big tent. I do it in yoga schools. I do it in yeah, most of the spaces are in, especially on festivals, are in big tents.
Mhm.
But that's also always a very smart sample what I do in the 4 hours or the day workshops, where I work in retreat centers or in big hotels or where I have more. You're talking about environment. That's why I point this out, because on a festival it's very chaotic. So the environment of the place where I'm teaching is really chaotic, and it's sometimes very hard, and it's way more hard to take people from the mind into the heart, really let them feel, to make them safe. But if I teach in very big luxury hotels or in yoga schools, it's way more easy, because there are so much. It's silent. So there's no tension on the outside. Just they have a lot of space to really tuning to themselves and really tuning to the energy of the space I create.
Yeah.
And it just brings me to the last workshop I gave. It was also on the way of one of the biggest festivals in the Netherlands, where there was an Indian singer next to me. It works next to my teepee, and he was the music was so loud. He was singing so loud that the people in my place couldn't even hear each other. So it was the toughest workshop I ever gave, because it was so difficult to take people into the heart or really let them feel, because the sound was too much. It was just really too much to it was actually, it's not working quite well, but I'm still trusting my process, still trusting the way I teach. But it was really, really hard. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine that.
Yeah.
Definitely. And yeah, that's exactly what I'm hinting at, is classroom environment is basically made out of two things. And the one thing is the physical space, and the other thing is the emotional mental space that you're holding.
Yeah.
So both things need to be in alignment with each other, at least to some kind of degree, and both spaces, depending on what kind of workshop you want to give, have to have some, well, preliminary considerations that you have to put into them when you choose them. And of course, if you're in a festival, then you don't have a choice, in a sense of, or you do have a choice whether or not you go into the tippy, or you're not in the tippy but outside probably. But there's very limited choices on where you can go. If you're in
Yeah.
a city, there's a lot of choices where you can go and where you can choose whether or not you want to do it in a yoga studio, you want to do it in a den, you want to do it in a hut a little outside from the city or wherever it is. So that definitely is one of the considerations that one has to do beforehand. But then also just to make sure that the place we are choosing is actually a safe space, and it's somewhat clean, in a sense of that it is clean. That it is calm as well. You said that before, like the singer right next to your tippy completely got everyone out of their zone and back into their head, or not able to actually listen to themselves and go into themselves. And then also to make sure it's a positive space, in a sense of that it works for your workshop. So positive can mean different things. For instance, if we have a yoga studio, oftentimes the yoga studios are set in a little bit more of a comfy or hippie kind of way. It's very inviting, it's relatively warm, or it's a little more white colored. However, if you want to do maybe a workshop on metal culture, of course you would have a different kind of workshop there, or like metal music even. Then the space doesn't need to be white necessarily. It can also be black, like all black walls, very dark space, which would still be inviting for people. However, in a different kind of way, and still it needs to have this safe kind of feeling. This, okay, here I'm at the right place, and then it should feel at least some kind of warm. Again, depends a little on what you're teaching and what the expectations of the students are. Also, it depends on your setting. The less formal, the more warm it can and should be. The more formal, sometimes it does make sense to have it a little more sterile. So, for instance, choosing a tipi, which is quite warm and or can be quite warm and cozy for a business meeting or business workshop on business administration or on marketing, might not be the best choice to make. And then having a very clean office room with white walls and white tables might be a better option to keep people engaged and to keep people in their kind of business focus mode in order to teach them there. So positive can have different connotations. Warm has this broad spectrum of how warm do I want to have it. But then, of course, having this approachability as an instructor is very, very important there. And then coming to the space holding again, or to the teaching from a facilitator standpoint, also being inclusive with everyone, of course, is important. And I guess that for you, it is the case that you already know that inclusivity, especially with the transgenic field, is very, very important, and that whoever comes to you also comes to you for a reason and has at least some kind of base idea what Tantra is. Maybe they're very open for it, maybe they're not. I don't know what kind of experience you've made with that. If you want to share, then feel free to use it.
It really depends on the festival, because if it's a spiritual festival, then a lot of people have some experience. But I'm also standing on normal festivals, and then also people coming in without any experience, and then yeah, it's different.
Yeah.
I always say I have to do it slower, and I'm always checking. The most time I'm checking in with the crowd, what's the experience, because then I can directly change or add things to my program.
Did you have ever an experience where it was very hard to include someone within your group?
Yeah.
Okay. How did you go around solving that?
Sometimes, especially with the work that I do, sometimes it's better to. I also learn. So I also learn on the job, you know. Especially in the last workshop what I gave, because I do it almost every week. Actually, it was going quite well, and everything's going quite well. But this was, I had the singer next to my TP. I had, but I also had this guy, and I felt it was not really safe to have him in my workshop.
Give me 1 second, please. I hate to interrupt you, but the rain is getting so strong right now that it's hard to start to actually understand you.
Okay.
However,
can we schedule it on a different way, because I just 50 minutes before I just jumped into this conversation. I have a lot of things to do, so I would love to continue, but maybe we can continue on a different time.
Yes, we can absolutely do that as well.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, perfect.
So well, I'll just ask Darte to put us in a
yes,
kind of
group. We'll get you in touch in a group. We'll make a group and we'll get you in touch. And also, I think there's one more lady who's joining in from Italy, you know, so she's going to be a few minutes. And yeah, so then great. Satyam will be good. It'll be great. Good to make connections. I'm glad. You know, it was good. A good conversation you guys had.
Yeah, it was wonderful. It was wonderful to reflect and to look at the things what I'm already doing, and thank you for giving me confirmation of what I'm doing. So thank you so much.
Of course, very, very gladly so. And thank you for all the things you shared. Actually, that was super, super interesting to hear from your perspective as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'd love to like continue with you if you're up for that. Go into that deeper since we've only like started on very, very easy topics right now. I'd love to do that if you're up for that.
It's wonderful to dive with you.
Thank you so much. With you as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. See you. So we have Lakshmi. Lakshmi, you just want to put your video on, Lakshmi?
So,
Lakshmi, you'll have to
Hello.
unmute. Hi, can you
Hi.
put your video on? Can you put your video?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, so Lakshmi, here's Rebecca. Rebecca's doing a small course and thing for facilitators like yourself to basically communicate better with your clients. Rebecca, you want to just take charge?
Yeah, I can do that. Absolutely. Hi, Lakshmi. It's so nice to meet you. Sorry. Thank you so much. Yeah, so what I'm doing is I'm having a teaching course where I teach people how to teach and facilitate. So my main focus is on making facilitators aware of all the little tiny things and tweaks that they can use in order to better their workshops. So the things that they can implement in order to just either create their workshops or to get a better connection with their students as well. So sometimes it's very, very small things. Like, for instance, something I've seen before, and we just talked about with Satyam about what makes a good teacher. Something I've seen before people do was have a course with like 6, 7 students, and they were sitting in a circle. And the teacher would only speak to one direction. Which led to all of the students that were sitting in one of the directions on the side of the right side of the teacher to be very engaged with the teacher and very engaged with the class, while the people on the left side weren't as engaged anymore, which was quite a pity because the course that the teacher was doing was really interesting and really, really good, and he was doing a good job. But just by making this tiny, tiny change or this tiny error mistake, he completely lost half of his audience on that. And having these tiny things to reflect upon has been quite important for people so far when I've talked to them, and to just know these things. So that is something that I'm making people aware of in their teachings, but then also just from the basic, the course is set up in a way that we're going from what makes a good teacher to how do I structure my course, how do I set up the whole workshop, what do I need to think about when I have my setup, like in a sense of where do I do it, how do I do it, with whom do I do it, which materials do I need, and so on and so forth. And then how do I structure a lesson as one lesson, as like 90 minutes, for instance, or how do I structure a longer course of 4 hours or of a weekend or even of a week, or how do I structure something that is going on for a few months but has like one course each week, something like this, if that makes sense right now.
Yeah, actually, the really find the way out to get workshops. So now I saw the possibility that
I'm so sorry. It's super hard to understand you right now. Your video is very, maybe that's my connection. I'm not sure.
Maybe you put your video off. No, it's not your connection. It's Lakshmi's connection.
Okay, I tried tap off and I speak. Okay, I share. Can you hear me now?
It's better, yes.
Okay. So I just shared that lately I was thinking how to find more structure to create my workshop. And I feel very grateful that I saw this possibility to follow your instruction by this event that is being created. And I find it that it can be very useful for many people, and especially for me, because I was really looking for it.
That is amazing. Thank you so, so much for sharing that. Can I ask you what kind of workshop you're planning on doing?
Yeah, so I used to work with Tantra, with yoga, transformational yoga, and vocal activation, shamanic breathwork. So these are the workshops that I used to facilitate.
Okay, that is
And
amazing.
my project is to organize a retreat where I can include all what I do.
Okay.
And for that, I really need to have a very good structure.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow, that sounds great. I'm super happy that you're at the point where you're creating this right now. And I really hope that over the next couple of days, maybe if you are getting back in here and if you're taking part in the course, you will get the information that you need for that. Because that is definitely something that we are going to do. So we are going to have a look at, so today we started at having a look at what makes a good teacher, just like in general. Then what we're also going to do is different teaching methodologies in a sense of which forms of teaching can I do at one specific moment, like how do I begin a class, how do I end a class, what do I do in between, how do I structure a class in a sense of having 90 minutes of just pure input of, for instance, me talking and lecturing doesn't work for most students. Most students are able to focus on a lecture between 5 to 20 minutes in a sense of very well. And after 45 minutes, basically having a lecture doesn't work at all for students anymore. So having different forms of teaching is insanely important for students to keep being engaged and to change up things and forms and modes of engagement. So that would be something we're going to look into, different methods of teaching, but then also, of course, structures. So for instance, just to give you a quick outlook into that, just having an introduction, of course, is important. And how do I do an introduction? What are forms of introduction that I can use? What are forms of introduction that would make sense for you, for your course or for other courses, depending on whether or not it's a practical course or it's a theory-based course. And of course, also depending on the group size, the people that are coming there, and the formal setting, all of these things. So that we would look into, and then how to structure on a longer basis. So yeah, I'm excited that you are interested in that, and we're definitely gonna cover that in the next couple of days.
Yes, thank you. I'm also very excited to get to know new information.
Amazing. Yeah, we were actually right now thinking like or communicating about what makes a good teacher. And if you want to stay for a while, we can actually go into that again and just continue where we left off with Satyam earlier, which we talked about just teaching in a sense of what makes a good teacher. We had one of the things we had was subject matter experience or just background knowledge or the base knowledge of what you're actually teaching. So for instance, for you, that would be what is Tantra or what is yoga, at least on some base account, usually on a deeper level. And then for someone who teaches anatomy, for instance, a very profound knowledge of the structure of the human body would be very important, for instance, as well. then of course the passion to teach the students, the will, and not just the will, but also the wish to actually provide quality content to the students and to work with the students, and to work with the students not from the ego of I want to teach you, but from the idea of I'll be happy if you understand. If you don't, I'll be here for you to help you in your kind of process. So this kind of student orientation and very warm attitude towards the students with some kind of adaptability and flexibility, in a sense of how can I adapt when a student doesn't understand, or when the group has a different kind of energy right now that doesn't work for what I actually planned on doing. How can I quickly adapt and maybe take something that I planned on doing later and do it now? Because maybe the students are very tired. So instead of going into a reading phase or deep studying phase, I'm going into an activity where we move our bodies in order to get the students out of that mode. So adaptability and flexibility there, but then also adaptability and flexibility in a sense of maybe it's just taking my students longer to understand the topic right now. And then I'm attributing more time to this topic, especially if it's important, and gonna see how I can make sure that other topics are covered in a way that either helps the students understand on their own later, or in a sense of maybe I'm just gonna shorten exercises that don't need to be as long, because they can be experienced on their own again, or they can be learned on their own again as well. So that's something we communicated about. We communicated about effective communication skills. So how do I actually teach and speak while teaching? How do I listen to students? Which kind of listening ways are they? So we talked about having active listening in a sense of listening with our ears, our eyes, and our body as well, depending on what kind of workshop you're doing. So reading body language is a very important thing, and we can use our eyes and our hands, of course, or like feeling just the body, the feeling, even the feeling of energy, but then also through hands-on adjustment, we can feel there a lot of things sometimes if students are shaking, for instance, while doing the yoga course. And then we talked about classroom environment in a sense of both holding a space as like a space holder to make it warm, friendly, inviting, welcoming, but also the classroom environment as in a sense of the space that we're having, to have a clean, inviting, welcoming space that fits our needs for the workshop. So these are the things we've talked about so far. So what I would love to ask you right now is, first, do you have any questions on that, or do you want to know anything more in depth on that? And then second, well, let's start with that one. Is there any question that comes to your mind right now about that one, or where you say, I want to have more information on that?
Yeah, I would like to have more information about how to speak to students, how to teach to them, to have more skills that I can use when I offer my workshops.
Yes, of course. So a few things we talked about already earlier, and I am relatively sure that you could go back into the recording and listen to that, because we've gone in that quite in depth. However, just speaking again, just to repeat that, speaking from a sense of confidence, so that you know what you're teaching about, that you know the terms that are relevant for your class. That helps a lot with just being able to communicate very effectively and to get to the point of what you're trying to teach the students as well. And then making sure to be able to take apart the knowledge you're giving towards your students in a very comprehensible way, in a sense of depending on what you want to convey right now, it is important to, first of all, have very clear sentence structure. That is something you can practice on your own. An exercise that we learned in university when I was studying this was to actually record yourself. So you can record yourself and then listen back onto your recording and figure out how was my sentence structure here actually. So did I go from one sentence to the next sentence, from one point to the next point, or did I start a sentence, go into a completely different direction, have like an excursus, another excursus, an analogy, and then end my sentence so that within my start of the sentence and within the end of my sentence, there's a lot of different kinds and bits of information that are in between what I actually want to convey? Or do I have a very clear sentence structure? So that is something you can work on with just recording yourself. And that will also help you with another thing, which is filler words. So I've used them before in this recording a lot as well, which is, for instance, the filler word "am." In English, a lot of people also say "so." So different filler words like this can interrupt your speaking flow. And to listen to that, to listen to a voice recording of yourself, and at the beginning that will feel a little achy, but with some time, if you listen to a voice recording of yourself and you make sure to catch yourself when you use filler words, or you make sure to speak very clearly in your sentence structure, it will get easier for you and it will get easier for your students as well. But also with that, confidence helps a lot. So if you know where you're going with your sentences and with your points that you're making right now, then that will enhance your teaching automatically as well. So, and at that point, again, it comes back to what you said you're struggling with, which is structure. So if you have a very clear structure and you know, first I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do this. This is the question I'm going to ask here. This is the question I'm going to ask here. With the flexibility in between, then you will automatically have an easier time speaking to your students. However, oh wait, does that make sense so far? And does that help?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
And I want to ask you, so all the recording is available. The talk that you had before is available to have it, because now sometimes the connection was not really good and I could not hear properly everything.
I will give that question to Tarun.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, everything is live and recorded.
Okay. So I will listen to the recording. I understood most of the things, just a little bit. Sometimes the network was not working properly, but yeah, as the
Yes.
recording there.
Okay, and then maybe to get to a second point, what you just said is, or like what you said in the beginning, you're a lot into, or like your workshops focus on tantric and on yogic workshops, so very close to people kind of workshops, very practical workshops. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes, it does.
Okay. So then again, there's another difference in the way you would approach this. So if you have a theory-based workshop where you basically lecture a lot, then you have a lot of talking that you're doing. However, which I now fell into as well. However, if you have a very hands-on or practical workshop and you connect with your students in a very close kind of way, then it's a lot of back and forth as well. And there's communicative strategies that you can implement. Maybe some of them you are already doing, but some of them you might not be aware of, which, for instance, would be what I just did with you as well, was I repeated back to you what you already said to me. This did two things. It created some kind of connection, but it also created a base understanding between the two of us. So I knew I could build onto what you said already, but then also hopefully, and please give me the feedback if it did that to you, hopefully you felt heard and seen with me just reflecting back to you that I've understood what you were actually teaching. Did that do that for you?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. So using these kinds of strategies, very simple, easy strategies you can implement in order to communicate effectively with students. It's actually something you can also implement in just daily life. So that goes back to linguistic psychology, where hearing someone say what you've already said is something that helps a lot. I've had a workshop back in Thailand, which was based or used one of these strategies as well, where something that we were doing was just talking about how did I understand you right now? So using this concept, giving that back to someone is very helpful for both the understanding side and for the side who wants to be understood. So saying, for instance, I understood that you need help with your structure. Is that right? Helps to create this basic as this basis as well. So that would be a strategy that you could use in order to communicate well with students and to create some connection as well. Something else that would be very important or can be very helpful is to just use the names of the students again and again. So sometimes people do that on purpose, that they would say, okay, Lakshmi, can you, I don't know, help me with this or this or this? Because psychologically speaking, one of the things that we as humans like the most hearing is our own name. That can not be true in some kind of instances, especially if people don't like their name, but usually if they introduce themselves within the course with a specific name towards you, then it's usually either their given name or a name that they like. And people who don't like their name, usually, especially within the traveling community, at least that has been my experience, they don't use their names if they don't like them. So using the names also creates connection that you can utilize for your course, especially within the tantric field. But in general, it also draws attention. So if I say, Lakshmi, did you understand that? Or Lakshmi, do you have a question on that? It automatically gets you back into oh wait, that's been a question directly to me. I need to listen right now. And then using the names at the beginning of a sentence or at the beginning of a question helps students to focus on what is coming after, because that is what gets students out of their misalignment or out of their head. So another example would be in a classroom, if you have 20 students and you see, okay, maybe Tom, I don't know, maybe Tom is just staring into nothingness and isn't really engaged right now, just using his name and being like, hey, Tom, can you do this? Or can you answer this question? Or can you help me with this? Automatically gets Tom back. So these are like tiny little things you could use in order to get people re-engaged. And then also question and answer utilization is very important as well. So there's different questions that you can use, which are either open questions or closed questions. Can you imagine what the difference would be between those two? Like a closed question or an open question?
Close question. Close question, maybe asking something about them experience. What did they experience, for example, during the workshop? And an open question, something that can engage in general the group instead of being direct to one person.
Okay, so the open question, 100% yes. So The closed question, not as much, because the example that you gave is actually also an open question. So a closed question would be a yes or no question. So for instance, when I ask you, can you imagine the difference? You could have just answered with yes and no. That would have been completely sufficient. And that is a closed question. So you have like a one word answer that is there. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. And then an open question is everything that draws you in and that makes people use their creativity, that makes people use their ideas as well, their brain, that makes people share. So everything that gives people the ability to think further and to engage with each other further as well. So that would be the difference between both of them. Does that make sense right now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And then hello to our new. What's your name?
Is it me or?
Yes, you just came
Hi.
in freshly, I
Yes.
think.
Yes. Hi, I'm Priyanka.
Priyanka, really nice to meet you, Priyanka.
Namaste. Thank you. Sorry, I just got late. Tarun just sent the link to me.
Ooh,
Yes.
that's not a problem at all. Super happy to have you. I don't know how much you know about the thing we're doing here right now.
Sorry, I don't know. I
Okay.
just logged in. Yeah.
That's not a big issue at all. I'm just gonna quickly give you an introduction before we're going back to where we're at right now. We're doing a teaching training basically for this whole week. So it is about teaching people how to teach. So sometimes it's very, very tiny things that we can change in order to enhance our workshops. And sometimes it's just the big questions that people struggle with, like how do I structure my workshop from the beginning to the end? Or how do I actually find a place where I can do my workshop? How do I start? How do I find people to work with me? And how do I advertise? All of these things. And especially with the teaching process, that's the focus we are doing this week. I'm helping people to enhance that. So what I've done in the past is I studied to become a teacher. So I have teaching background of 4 years of teaching experience, and I have teaching background of 7 years of studying. So I studied to become a teacher in Germany for English and biology, originally for school, so for high school mostly. But I also studied just teaching methodology in general, and went into adult education within some kind of X courses. And what we're doing is looking at all of these things from the perspective of facilitation within different workshops that you want to do. So what would help you from the idea of, do you have a practical workshop, do you have a theory-based workshop, and so on and so forth. Give ideas of how to use different methodologies within the teaching, and then differentiate or give you an idea of how differentiation works with different formats and different settings of workshops. So is it online? Is it in person? Is it a short-term thing like 2 hours? Is it a long-term thing like 8 hours, or maybe even like during a semester? And is it formal? Is it semi-formal? Is it informal? All of these different things. And then, of course, is it practically based or is it theory based? So there's a lot of tiny things, as I said, that sometimes can make a difference. And there's a lot of very important things that we need to consider at the beginning when we're starting to do our workshops. And that is what I'm trying to help people with. Okay. Is there anything you are specifically interested right now, or any question that you want to ask directly in the beginning, or do you just want to get back into it as well?
Right now, I don't have major questions. I think it'll come to me. Right
Okay.
now, I don't have anything, to ask.
Okay, perfect. And then the one question that I did want to, or that I would like to ask would be, where in your workshop building are you right now, and what are you offering basically, or what do you want to offer?
One of the things that I believe in is very much like energy healing and holistic healing, and not just like one step, but telling, just making kind of a workshop which has a well-rounded structure. So sometimes it's difficult because you can't put everything in a small capsule. So with the limited knowledge that I have, of course, there's 100 things to learn and do. So sometimes I'm like, I think I have a hard time convincing, or maybe just putting in the um, right hierarchy, maybe, or the right steps. Key, it'll go like this. Sometimes I feel I go with the flow a lot of times. I can't stick to the script. Okay, this is it, because every person is different. But I would like to have I think, more detailed, version of what I'm already doing.
Yeah.
So like
Okay.
combining healing with guidance, with like that.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't know if I'm clear, but yeah, something like that.
Yeah, no, that definitely does sound clear. It's very interesting because we already talked about structure and how to that
Oh.
the structural aspect is a very important part, also for Lakshmi. So that is something that we're gonna cover later on, how to actually go about structuring your courses and what to do in order to make sure it's a coherent structure, so that it makes sense to you and your students as well, and that it enhances the learning process for your students so that they know where they're at in each and every part of your workshop. So if you know where you're at, then it's very easier to also get the students to know where they're at. So that is something we're going to cover this week. But yeah, that does sound like you're at the beginning, but already have like an idea of where you want to go.
Yeah, I think I'm little ahead of beginning, maybe like one step ahead of beginning, because a lot of times things change because of the energies, and I
Yes.
feel okay right now the energies want me to do this. Right now it's meant to be like that. I don't know if it's with everybody, but I feel a lot spontaneity to like, okay, like right now I'm feeling this is to be done, then I'll do like that. I'll
Yes.
follow a hierarchy, but sometimes I just go with the flow.
Okay.
So yeah, maybe a little ahead of the beginning. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that does sound good. And I would use what you just said about the structure as well to get back into what we were talking about today. Because what we talked about today so far was what makes a good teacher. And we've just we just repeated a few different concepts of that, but actually structure is very important as well. And I love that both of you, Priyanka and Lakshmi, just have said that structure for you is something you're struggling with. It's actually something that I got the impression that a lot of people are struggling with. Just from a sense of there's a lot of things that need to be addressed within that. So I would actually want to ask both of you to think for a moment about what it is that makes structure and structuring for you so hard, and how you've experienced teachers in the past have a good structure within their courses.
I think just generally, I just know when somebody is being creative, they lose a sense of structure. You just want you go to the creative side of it rather than being in a structure side of it. So when I'm talking to somebody, or I'm explaining, I just get carried away. One thing leads to another, and one thing leads to another, and then that's it. I come back to it, but I just feel like I have so much to share, and I want to be creative with it. So it goes haywire sometimes. Then I've realized, oh, okay, I need to come back to this. And then that's why if it's like a 60-minute session, for example, it becomes 90 minutes. No.
Mhm.
I mean, good for the clients, okay, but not so good. So I struggle with just. I think I've said too much. I think that I have want to share at that point, and then I want to be creative with it. Then I start building things in the air, and then I'm like, oh shit, okay, I have to come back. So I think I have to be a little less creative, I feel.
Okay. If you're going from, to just chime in there directly, if you're going away from you and going to student orientation in that kind of sense, what would that mean with your problem that you're having right now?
Sorry, I don't understand.
Okay. I'm gonna rephrase that then. So what you said right now, what I understood is you're having a meeting with a client, for instance, and you are telling them so many things that you want to tell them and that you want to let them know, but then you're getting carried away. With that, your focus is on what you want them to know.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. Or not exactly, but I'm glad you're agreeing with that. So how could you change that and make it more useful for you and the client?
Make it concise.
That and
I want to speak in bullet points sometimes,
Mhm.
rather. So what you said earlier, yeah, what I would like them to know, but also I feel like what I would like them to know and beyond.
Yes. Okay, perfect. So, and then the question I would have is what you would like your clients to know. Is that something that your clients also want to know?
I'm hoping they do, because they always like, okay, great. Okay, obviously they not 90% of them always say nice things. 10% maybe not. But again, I think people will not share their honest opinions possibly. But I think what I feel is that I want to give over and above.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes. And so here would be my, can I give you some input on that, just
Yeah.
spontaneously coming from me? Okay.
Yeah.
So what I would think of maybe implementing would be a question structure for you in that kind of sense, in a sense of also just asking, what is the main thing you want to learn from me today? You can do that at the beginning of the class, for instance, if you have a course, and then see what happens. If you have a big group, of course, everyone is going to be like, I want to learn this, I want to learn this, da 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 da. And then that maybe won't help as much. But then also having just a poll and ask, is this the focus you want to do? Is this the focus you want to do? Is this the focus you want to do? And having 20 people answer that, and 15 of those people want to maybe go into nutrition, and 5 of these people want to go into physical activity as like a holistic, like one part of the holistic concept for how to treat our bodies, then you know, okay, I'm going to focus on nutrition in this kind of workshop because that is the main information that my students want right now. Or if you have a one-on-one, asking them, okay, I can give you a lot of information on a lot of topics. What is it that you're actually looking for? Or do you want like a broad overview without me going into detail? And these are questions you can ask your students or your clients even to just figure out where to focus on.
Right.
And then have people ask you questions, because in your case, it looks like people are coming towards you, and please correct me if I'm wrong. People coming towards you and asking you for information, and you're giving them information in a sense of very personal counseling. That's what I got right now. So
yeah, it becomes personal. I want to add something, because I think sometimes, they may come for something specific, but since I read energies, I might sense something very different.
yes.
That's the issue.
Yes.
And so, yes, you're right that, yes, I should focus on what they come to me for, that one thing. But because I sense all these things, I feel I should tell. But yes, it is for personal things. It is
Yeah.
for.
But then if you sense them, that is amazing. Then asking questions of like, hey, I feel like this is an information that would be helpful for you. Do you want to go into that direction, or would that actually be something you're not interested in at all? Then you get the information directly, and you can either spend time on that and have meaningful time and information exchange or energy exchange, or the client will tell you, oh no, I'm not actually into that too much. Then from that, you can be like, okay, then we're gonna not go into that topic because me talking about the topic wouldn't make sense.
Right. But yeah, but they don't mind. Honestly, people like to be taken care of somewhere, by words.
Yeah,
So
no,
when I'm speaking nice things, everybody likes to hear. So
yes.
till now, I think people are like, okay, yeah, okay.
Yes.
No one has been like, okay, no, this is not what I want to hear. Sometimes when people, so actually, I also say this to people that I may not tell you what you want to hear, but I'll tell you what you need to hear.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I do love that approach. It was what I was saying right now, more focused on you sharing the issue of you feel like you are intending to do like 60 minutes and then it gets to 90 minutes. So just for you as a help to like figure out how to be more concise, or how to set actually focus points for yourself.
So I should focus on what that what they are talking about, and then maybe get into if I'm sensing something.
I wouldn't say you should, but it would be an input that I would like, that just came spontaneous towards me, that you can try to implement if you want that. If that doesn't work for you, if that doesn't feel natural, then don't do it. It just was like spontaneous input that came to me.
Right.
And then if we go back to like teaching in general with structure, so I would get back to the question I actually asked a little earlier, which I would also love Lakshmi to comment on if you have any kind of input on that, which was, what is problematic for you also? So we had time management right now, which I would say that Priyanka just said, time management in a sense of either like giving too much information and wanting to go over time, but then also what could be other organizational or structural issues that you've encountered so far, if there's anything that's coming to your mind right now.
Yes, for me, for example, is as I'm also very creative and I have so much to give, is how do I put the correct sequence of all what I want to offer in a workshop in a way that in harmony. So this is more my issue.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Absolutely. So it's basically, how do you go from the very beginning towards having a course that feels like it's a whole thing, and it's like it's a circle moment, everything comes back together.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Yeah, that is something that a lot of people struggle with, which we'll cover later in more detail how to actually do that. But yeah, having a structure in this kind of sense is something that is very important for like just being a good teacher in general. So if we go to structure, it's both time management and then how to build up in a sense of going from each exercise to each exercise, going from one topic to the other, so that it builds from the basis and the foundation towards the more complex ideas that you're trying to convey. So or starting with the big complex thing might be overwhelming for the mind. So going from the small things into the bigger things and into the bigger concepts often is helpful. And if you try to create your workshop, think about what is the what is the thing that my students will need to know from the very beginning? That could be just terminology. That could be easy words that for you are just the most normal words ever. For instance, hip flexor. So our hip flexors within our legs, people might know what that is, but people coming to your workshops also might have no idea where the hip flexors are and what they are doing. So introducing key terminology, key concepts, any kind of keywords to your students at the beginning, for instance, is one of these things that can enhance your teaching, and that would be necessarily structure-wise something that you would have to think about when creating your workshop. So to go from the very foundational things that might be actually completely normal to you now towards the more heavy concepts, which something you can do with that is also to just think about the very start of your journey and go back to what was it that you needed to learn first? How did you learn that? Or what confused you at the beginning of it? And then starting from there and building up from there. Okay. So that would be on organization, time management. Another thing on organization, time, or like organization for workshop, I would love to give as a question. What else could be a challenge for that? Or what else would you need to consider when you think about organizing a workshop?
Mostly because I would like to bring the people in a certain kind of space from the beginning to the end. So I would like that all work is made organically and really bring people to somewhere.
Okay, yeah, that goes back into teaching structure and like how to structure your process. But what I was actually trying to hint at was organizational, as in you come into a completely empty space. What do you need to keep in mind there? Or what is it that you need to organize there?
You mean so when I come okay, I didn't really the question.
Okay, so you want to do a tantric workshop and you're walking into a yoga studio and there's nothing but white walls.
Ah, okay. Okay. Yeah, so in that moment I will create a very warm ambient with decoration, candle, flowers to really create this atmosphere. When people come in, they feel at home, warm. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So the thing you would need then would be just considerations about what do I need to organize material wise as well. So do I need to have some kinds of handouts? Do I need to have yoga mats? Do I need to have blankets? Do I need to have candles? Do I need to have paper? All of these different things would work into organization as well. So how do I organize that? And when do I use these kinds of materials? So when does it make sense to use a pen and paper? When does it make sense to have a yoga mat there? When does it make sense to have a candle there? So at which kinds of phases do I need that? So these are just considerations that when you structure your workshop and when you go into that, it's important to keep in mind the just material wise and space wise, room wise. What do I have there and what do I have to bring as well? And when am I going to utilize what I have in the space? Okay. And
Okay.
then good. Perfect. And then just to wrap that up, the last thing or the last things that make good teachers, we've already hinted at the very beginning today, was the belief in the student, like really believing in the student that they can learn, to bring a ethical environment as well, or like to be ethical as a teacher. Something that we have to consider is, as teachers, we are role models always. And if we, you're nodding right now, what's the thought behind that? Oh, your mic.
Yeah. No, because I okay, I wish sometimes that if I'm compassionate to somebody, sometimes I wish my teachers were the same. I don't know if it makes sense here, but I just wish sometimes that, because when I'm going to somebody to learn, sometimes they're so disconnected and not compassionate, okay? And I just feel, okay, I'm not feeling it. So a lot of times I pick that, okay, that I want whoever I'm teaching, even if it's one person, whatever that I know, I want to be compassionate. What I meant to say is that yes, you need to be a role model, not just because of the knowledge, but because of the kindness, and just because that's the thing I would like to learn and teach. So mainly learn. So I wish I had those role models that were compassionate, not just knowledgeable. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for sharing that. Lakshmi, you had unmuted yourself as well. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, can you repeat, please, the question? Network is not really clear from my side.
Oh yeah. So the thing I was saying is, it wasn't a question necessarily, but it was just that as teachers, we are role models. So acting in a way that is ethical and responsible within the classroom setting, but also outside of it, communicates a lot to our students. Hence, that is something we should keep in mind as well.
Yes.
And that then makes a good teacher to also know that.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, well,
Yes.
the last thing. Oh, sorry. Yes.
No, Ajay, yes.
Okay. And then the last thing that I would love to just end it basically with here then would be having a interacting in a way that encourages students to actually think critically and to get creative. And we've done that in the first part of the workshop more than we've done that now in the second part, but that would be to ask questions. For instance, we had that just before you came in, Priyanka, that open questions are questions where we engage or encourage students to engage more creatively with the answers, and to ask questions that are not just yes and no questions, but that ask for broader concepts and for explanations, or for sharing experiences. So either that, and then to just have them critically think in order to engage them, in a sense of not just giving them the answers like I've done now. I've just said, like, we need to be ethical and we need to be responsible and we need to encourage students to critical thinking and all of this. I'm doing that right now time-wise, but asking students to, for instance, like we did earlier, what does make a good teacher for you? Which kind of experiences did you have? What can you deduct from that? Like, if you look at the best teachers you've had, what made them as great as they were? And what were things that you can take from that for your experience? So that would be something that would also be very important, and that would also make a good teacher. And that is something that if you create your workshop, it's helpful to, at each and every step of the way, ask yourself, why am I right now actually using this method in order to teach my students this concept or this experience whatever it is that you're teaching? Is it because time-wise I need to stop here, or like I want to give them the information, so I'm just going to provide the information to them? Like, for instance, also at the beginning, as I said, introducing like base terminology, especially if it's words that cannot be deducted. Or is it coming from a way of, I want to engage my students physically right now, I want to engage my students in this kind of way right now? Or is it just because that is something I've seen with teachers as well. Am I using this kind of method because it's easier for me to teach in this way? And of course, just talking and giving and providing the information will always be the easiest way to teach. However, it is also one of the ways that is the less useful for the students, because the more students have to think, and the more students have to try to come up with the solution themselves, the more the brain activity will go up, the more they will actually be able to retain the information, and the more it will also be an experience that they're having, instead of just pure information that they could also get from a book. So that would be something to keep in mind as well, structural wise, also to just ask yourself that in each and every step of the way: why am I using this method right now, and how will that help my students to understand? Yes.
So I have another thing. At one point, I don't know if everybody else feels like that, or that if you let's say stick to the script, you stick to the keywords, the points. Sometimes I feel it's not enough. The reason I feel that I feel maybe I'm not giving them worth what they're asking. Maybe if I go overboard, they will understand it better. That's why possibly I use all these words just to make them feel that, listen, I'm not just doing this for money, or I'm not doing this because I'm meant to do this. I want to make them feel bigger than the course, bigger than the session. So that they feel okay, we are getting much more than what we asked for. So is that wrong, or should I not do that?
Well,
It's
how does it feel for you?
it's okay. I mean, I feel good.
Okay. Well, that is good then. As long as it's not as long as your reasoning is not, I'm just doing this so they don't feel like I'm just doing this for money, but as long as the reasoning is, I'm doing this because I actually want them to have a good experience here.
Yes.
And that's
Yeah, second.
So that is something you can choose for yourself, basically. The only thing to keep in mind there is, especially if the thing you're giving within a workshop of a group of people, and you're explaining to one person, just make sure that it's not going overboard, in a sense of explaining a lot to one person, but not including everyone else. Or just sometimes you have students within a group where one person is very active and asks a lot of questions, and again and again and again. And it's also very personal questions to them that are not interesting for your students in a general sense. So stopping that and being like, hey, let's take that out of the classroom, let's take that into a personal consultation, might be helpful in that kind of sense.
Yeah, I got that. Yeah, thanks.
Perfect. Welcome. Okay, so then I would actually leave that on that note. And if you want to like go more deep into that, we can take that into a personal conversation as well. But yes, so that was the introduction for today. We are going to continue with that tomorrow and go more into teaching methodology, and we'll cover all of these more structural questions later on this week. So yeah, I'm super happy that you've been here in this course. I'm very, very glad to have gotten to know you. Thank you so much for both of your engagements, and also yeah, just to be here. That's amazing. And thank you for Date for hosting this workshop today. And yeah, that is it from my side for today. And I hope you've taken something meaningful for yourself with that as well.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
Yeah. I'll see today's session how it goes, and I will speak less. Yeah.
Very happy you shared what you shared. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for offering it.
Very gladly so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Gladly so. Hope to see you again.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. Then, yes, thank you to Date. Tarun, I would give over to you at this point, and yeah, close the Zoom call. Thank you so
very
much.
Thank you.
Have a nice
Thank
day.
you.
You
You
too.
too.
Thank you.
Also, when you place your sense, you also that is in class. So this next one, that's why it might